I don't think he needs you today. He's doing it. I think it's used to my, yeah, we're going live. I think. Just hold on 1 minute just to make sure it actually does what it's supposed to do. Okay, welcome to the to day 4 of but day 5 of the week, but day 4 of Apprenticeship Week right here from Basildon, but connecting internationally. And of course, the theme for this year is build a better future. Build a better future. Today is the last session, and we are honored to have with us so many talented and gifted speakers this morning. So without wasting too much of our time, you know her. She's no newer to you than she was on Monday now. We all know the lady of the day, the lady of the week, Rani Moorcroft, MBE, who is our host under her organization, Z Generation CIC, and she's here to present the 4th day of Apprenticeship Week year 2021. And today it's all about money. It's all about finance. So without wasting too much time, please welcome Rani to the program. Rani? You're muted.
Thank you very much, Tunde. Would you put the next slide and then quickly the 3rd slide on for me, if you can? Because here are the speakers, and we are so grateful because we've got Lillian and her team coming in from Kenya, and we have another young gentleman, Joseph, who's here from Barbados. So this is a very international conference. Next one, please. Can you put the next slide on? Well, Gunsi Fachai, everybody. Today is Chinese New Year, and I'm half Chinese. So if my kids were here, they should be banging their heads on the floor. I take it as a virtual bang. This is the year of the ox, where it's agriculture, hardworking, positive, honest, hardworking again. How amazing is that? Because it sets a lot of the themes that we're going to speak about today. The first speaker, because we've got such a packed program, is our MP, or my MP here in Basildon, John Barron, Basildon and Billericay. John has a career in finance, very exciting, he'll tell you about. But for me as well, it's important that he chairs the all-party parliamentary group in Westminster on the British councils. And wherever we are in the world, there's a British Council there on education and skills, helping to sell the flag, really, isn't it, John? So over to you. Thank you for joining us.
John, please unmute yourself. You're muted, John.
Thank you, Rani. Sorry about that. Thank you, Rani, for that kind introduction. Thank you for the invitation, and thanks for everybody to joining this seminar. I'm going to keep my comments reasonably brief, no more than, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes, because I'm not sure I can stay with you right till the end of this meeting because of surgery. So I'd be very happy to take any questions and at the end of what I have to say, if that fits in with your agenda and without wishing to disrupt the timetable. Rani's asked me to really talk very briefly about my career in the city, how I got into the city, but just as importantly, how I see the investment and financial landscape now, particularly as we approach the budget in this country on the 3rd of March. Given these are unprecedented times. Let me kick off by saying my career into politics was reasonably conventional. After I did a lot of traveling when I was young, gap years and so forth, into university, into the army, and then into the city. and then after 15 years in the city, into politics. My entrance to the city, I was an outsider. I didn't have any contacts, but I was diligent in writing to lots and lots of companies as I was thinking about leaving the army. And most of those were filed in the bin, those application letters in those days. It wasn't emails, but a sufficient number were interested for an interview, and the rest is history, as they say. And over a career spanning 15 years, I was a director of Henderson Administration and also Rothschild's Asset Management, essentially running money for charities and private clients. And very exciting times. The city was very good to me, but I took particular pleasure in helping a lot of charities with their investments. And it wouldn't be right if I gave you their names, but they would be names that you would recognize. And two very different approaches to the city. Henderson's was very individualistic. You could have two fund managers sitting next to each other doing different things. One could be buying a stock, the fund manager next door could be selling it, that very same stock. Whereas in Rothschild's, it was a much more disciplined core list approach, which I was running on behalf of other asset managers. And both had their advantages and disadvantages, but overall, very positive experience of both. And both companies worked very hard on producing good investment returns for their clients. Into the city. Whilst in the city, I was also involved in one or two charitable endeavours, Square Mile Run, which is now reasonably common, but in the early days, I was an early backer of that, etc., etc. So there was always the city, sometimes this isn't highlighted much in the city, but there's a lot of charitable good work done by the city, not just the City of London, but in other financial centres across the UK. Into politics. And obviously an interest in finance as much as anything, but also foreign affairs. But let me bring things right up to date for this seminar a little bit. The budget is coming up on the 3rd of March. As everybody knows, all governments have spent an awful lot of money providing economic support packages during these times of uncertainty. And I think that's been absolutely right. And the UK has been one of the more generous, but there is now a financial black hole there. So there was the real debate within government as to how to plug that black hole. And I've had meetings with the Chancellor, as have many other MPs. I've put in detailed working papers as to how we can perhaps improve the finances. And I'm going to come to the green aspect of this in a minute. And as somebody who voted against HS2, which some might not know what that is, but that's a major railway investment, which is going to cost over £100 billion. I think we could still actually scrap that and get the vast majority of that money back and not have to spend it, certainly, and the cost estimates that continue to rise. I think we have too many quangos in this country. I think we should consider an outside, so take a machete to the quangos, which can cost tens of billions of pounds. I think a slightly out of the box thought. I think we're getting to the point of a cashless society. I think we could ban cash, which may would result in I think a uplift in GDP. There's a as with all countries, a little bit of black market economy out there. Having said that, we must remember that we must first address the issue of financial and digital exclusion from those who, for example, don't have bank accounts. Nobody must be discriminated by such a move. So we've got to give that some thought before we can take that step. And one or two other suggestions as well. But with all that money raised, we've got to pursue a one nation agenda. We've got to, the whole point of having sound finances and strong economies is to help to be in a better position to help those less fortunate than ourselves. And that's an old-fashioned one nation concept, but it's still an agenda I think is very, very relevant today. We all know income inequality is rising. I don't think we should level down. I think we should try and level up because we've got to encourage enterprise. We've got to encourage entrepreneurship, because that is the basis of prosperity at the end of the day. But as I say, that financial prosperity is a means to an end to help people less fortunate than ourselves. So let's raise the national living wage. Let's raise personal allowances. Let's make sure that those who draw benefit, and there is that safety net there, because it's important. It's the mark of a civilized society that you look after those who are on tough times. Let's move on quickly to the green agenda, which I think is important. I was privy to a conversation involving Treasury officials regarding all sorts of aspects of looking at how we can encourage greater investment in the green agenda. And we are seriously looking at, for example, as a government, of issuing green gilts or bonds. And I think that's going to be that's a real runner at the moment. Certainly Treasury officials are taking this very seriously. But there's also other ways that government can help encourage investment. And as we've seen over the last 10 years, subsidies we're encouraging subsidies in, for example, renewable energy. In effect, they're subsidies. There's all sorts of technical terms, but the bottom line is they're encouraging people to invest in green energy, and that has worked well. I think I'm right in saying in 2010, I think less than 10% of our electricity supply was derived from renewable sources. Well, today it's over 50% and improving. But that's not to say there isn't still a long way to go. But encouraging signs all the time, and I see from an investment point of view, because with my city experience behind me, I'm in business myself. I specialize in something called investment trusts, which are a very good investment vehicle for the retail investor, but under-researched, under-known, often referred to as the city's best-kept secret. Having written the book, The Financial Times Guide to Investment Trusts, I write a monthly column in a small magazine, The Investors Chronicle, about them. And our business manages 9 real investment trust portfolios on a website and shares that progress on in real-time basis with its members. And those 9 portfolios achieve a range of strategies and income objectives. So very much linked in. And what one is noticing is that certainly when it comes to investment trusts, but I imagine with the retail sector generally, whether it's unit trusts or indeed exchange traded funds, there is more and more money going into green investments. That is a good thing, because by investing in the future, we stand a better chance of actually making a success of our endeavors in the future when it comes to that particular agenda. Now, I could go on, Rani, but I'm conscious I don't want to crowd everybody else out, and I would like to leave time for questions if anybody has them. Now, if nobody has any questions, I can talk a little longer if that would help you, but I've tried to give you a very brief run through, a very brief insight as to how I see things from my end and what I'm trying to do in Parliament to ensure that when it comes to the budget, although finances are tight, we don't penalise enterprise. We try to help companies, particularly smaller companies, and I've also suggested we reduce corporation tax, particularly for smaller companies, from money saved elsewhere. But always remember the objective of what prosperity is about, and that is, as I say, to better help those less able.
So are there any questions, please, from our small audience?
I have a question.
Is that Audley? Audley
Yeah.
English?
Yeah.
Okay.
John, could you tell me, you talk about the investment trust. How do you guarantee ESG investors here in the UK? Is there any guarantee for ESG investors here in the UK?
When you say guarantee, Audley, what do you mean? Sorry, guarantee in what sense?
Guarantee their investment, that they invest in companies, in green companies. like overseas, they have performance bond, which they guarantee on the bond overseas. But what type of guarantees is there for green investors here in the UK to protect their investment into green companies?
Well, I mean, the London Stock Exchange will ensure that certain standards are met by way of regulation of the companies themselves. And as you well know, you mentioned investment trusts, as I did. An investment trust has an independent board of directors whose job is to represent the shareholders. It's not to represent the fund managers. And it's their job, if you like, to hold the fund managers to account, to make sure that they're sticking within their investment remit, to make sure that they don't take undue risks that haven't been pre-accepted, and to make sure that shareholders' interests are represented. And that, together with the market regulation, courtesy of organizations like the London Stock Exchange when it comes to reporting, or the Financial Conduct Authority, it is generally accepted that investors in the UK are being looked after. Now, that's not to say the occasional mistake is not made, but guarantees are hard things to pin down. But certainly, I would suggest to you that transparency is evident. We have decent regulation, and investors are taken very seriously at various levels, as I say, including by the boards of the investment trusts, whose job it is to represent investors when it comes to the running of the company.
John, I think that if I may interject about this, because it's a sort of a barrier. We know that universities, I'm talking on behalf of that, they're the seed beds of bright enterprise as well. But also we have a lot of SMEs with very, very good ideas. Now, it's so new. I know ESG is so new, and hopefully we're going to get a bit more illumination after this. But the major problem is that people are out there desperate to invest, desperate. Mm-hmm. But their shareholders want to know that if it's so good, what's inside the tin? And the only way we know that is the government have the can opener. So unless the government is there and saying, yes, maybe a kite mark of some sort, which says, this is a fantastic project. I mean, if things are exported abroad, there's 80% of the actual amount is guaranteed through the DIT, which is fabulous, because it means that if anybody's exporting, they know at least 80% of it is going to be paid. It's a loan to the country over, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 years. That isn't happening here. And that's what's stifling growth in this country. Am I right, Audley? Am I paraphrasing this right for you? Yeah, he's gone mute. But that's the problem. And I think that if you can lobby for that, it would be enormously helpful, as well as for the universities.
Yeah, what you're saying, Rani and Audley, is what you want to do is, if you're exporting from the UK, you want the government to be as helpful as it can be in I don't know, providing. You can't guarantee customers. You can't get government actually intervening in the marketplace, but what you can do is get governments being as helpful as they can and encouraging exports, maybe providing tax relief for overseas seminars or awareness or conferences or something along those lines. I don't know. Is that what we're talking about here?
No, already it's already in place that if you export to a country, whoever is buying that from a country, obviously, because of instability in some of these governments in some of the countries, our government actually guarantees 80% of that. It's a loan, if you like. So 80% of that is paid to our small companies. Fabulous, because if anything happened, they take a 20% hit.
Yeah.
Nothing like that happens here, and that's what's stifling green growth.
Yes. Well, what I would suggest, Rani, is why don't you write to me about it, and I'll put this suggestion into the government. I mean, I think everything is on the table when it comes to a budget, and certainly the Chancellor has been reaching out to colleagues, and some of us have been responding and having meetings with him and putting in submissions. And there's no reason why that can't continue, up to the up to the budget itself. So if you've got a suggestion like that and you feel that this country is a little bit behind others, then let us know.
That's fantastic. And if any of our university professors feel that I'm not representing the wonderful work that you're doing, please jump in now and ask John whatever you want. We got any hands up, Yetunde? Oh, good.
Not that I can see, no.
That's good. Then I've got you to ourselves, John. You know that. And what I said to Stephen Metcalfe yesterday, is that, as always, I lobby for the doors of Westminster to be open to young people who generally don't think that, the governance of this country belongs to them. So, as always, I would love you to support some of the events that I'm planning. Let our young people in, sit there, if COVID allows, and have a chance to actually express their views. So
absolutely right, Ronnie. And please, all, as you well know, actually, because we've known each other a little while, I'm always happy to help as best I can. If you feel there are some young people in the constituency who would benefit from a visit to Parliament once we get obviously back into normal times and better times, then that's something we can arrange. And we can take them into a room also and have a chat with them about finance or anything else. So Parliament is open. It needs to be open to the public, and that's what it's there for. And once we get through this pandemic, I hope that, which is hopefully won't be too long, we can start doing this sort of thing again, which we've done many times in the past. So if you've got a group that you think would benefit of constituents, then let me know. And if it's a group outside the constituency, then let their MP know. And I know that they will be responsive.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for staying with us. I know you've got lots of people banging on the door.
I can stay a little bit longer. It's just I've got some surgeries a little later, but I will stay a little bit longer and listen and look forward to hearing other people, what they have to say.
Fantastic. We'll go very quickly then, because I'm so thrilled that we've got our friends led by Lillian over in Kenya, who are going to show us in real life. It's a world first of how ESG works. Mangroves, my passion, as you know, because mangroves are, Sri Lanka, where I come from, is the first country in the world to replant all the mangroves, the sea trees. But Lillian on the other side of Africa is well, I'm not sure whether there's am I the only one with the neck? So let's hand over to our friends and also watch the video if we may.
Mikoko Pamoja is a pioneering mangrove conservation and village development project in Gazi Bay on the south coast of Kenya. Mikoko Pamoja means mangroves together, and that is exactly what is happening. Instead of cutting down mangroves, the villagers are protecting these blue forests. Mikoko Pamoja is a model for mangrove villages around the world. It's the first community project to use the sale of biocarbon credits from the mangrove ecosystem to bring conservation and development together. The sale of biocarbon credits not only funds the conservation efforts, but also creates jobs and pays for access to clean water and education. Mangroves are an essential part of vital marine ecosystems. They provide a breeding ground for fish and a buffer between the land and the sea. They protect seagrass meadows and coral reefs from silting. And they're a natural defense against sea storms and coastal erosion. But mangroves are in rapid decline globally. Local communities and people from further afield enter the communal forests to cut mangrove poles for timber. In Kenya, this has resulted in the destruction of 20% of mangroves over the last 30 years. This loss has resulted in the decline of fish stocks. Since villagers get almost all of their protein from fish, this hits hard. Flooding from sea storms has also increased. Through Mikoko Pamoja, the blue forests are now being protected and seen for their true value.
I've been chopping mangrove for 5 years, and I stopped after the coming of Mikoko Pamoja and discover and realize the importance of Mikoko Pamoja for the sake of the community development.
The project started in 2013, a joint initiative between the Gazi Bay villagers, volunteers from global NGOs, and research institutions in Kenya and the UK. The project employs forest guards who are often based in a watchtower to deter cutting of the mangroves. Villagers go out to the 117 hectares of protected mangrove forest 4 times each year. This is to monitor growth and biodiversity in the forest. Trees are measured and key indicators of ecosystem health are checked, like crab numbers. Mikoko Pamoja is also a reforestation project.
Our activity today is planting. So we take the plants which we kept in the nursery, we transport them or we migrate them from one place to another place.
The carbon benefits from protecting and planting mangroves are substantial. Not only do mangroves retain carbon in their own biomass, they also lock it into the marine muds. More than 1,500 tons of carbon per hectare is stored beneath the forests. That's more than 8 times that of forests on land. Local people now have long-term security of protein from viable fisheries. Crops are protected, and the coast is naturally defended against sea storms. The community decides how they want to spend the project income. Making sure each child has a school book has been an early priority, and the schools are now sending students onto high schools for the first time.
Mikoko Pamoja sincerely has done a lot to our school, especially, for example, when you go to performance. Last year, the school broke the records because of the books we received donation from Mikoko Pamoja.
Pumps funded by Mikoko Pamoja also provide clean drinking water for several hundred children in the 2 primary schools in Gazi and Makongeni. 4,500 people in the wider community also benefit from clean drinking water, and people no longer carry water from afar. Jobs have been created for 2 forest guards and 1 project coordinator. The vision for Mikoko Pamoja is to ensure enough support is found to keep the project developing and to roll out the project as a flagship for other blue forest villages in Kenya and elsewhere. The first replication of the project is already underway at Vanga Blue Forest, close to Tanzania. Part of future development will be to include the seagrass meadows in the ecosystem's carbon credits. Local people, volunteers, NGOs, research institutions, and individuals are coming together around this amazing project, funding conservation and development through action on carbon footprints. Mikoko Pamoja biocarbon credits are available through the charities ACES and Plan Vivo.
Thank you very much. That was excellent. I think it puts it in a nutshell what we can do if we can stop the video. And we're going to hand straight over to
this pandemic is crippling.
Yeah. So Lillian, are you there? Off you go.
Okay, thank you. I hope you enjoyed watching the video.
Yes.
Can you hear me clearly?
Speak louder, Lillian, please.
Okay, I'm going to give you an update of what has been since the last video. So luckily, we've gone ahead and started the Vanga Blue Forest project, which covers an even larger area and a bigger community base. So far, Mikoko Pamoja is in its 8th year. having received about 2,000, selling 2,000 tons of carbon every year. And for the Vanga Blue Forest Carbon, it's just finishing its first year, and we're already looking to upscale this to the seagrass areas in Vanga and in Gazi. So there has been a lot of empowerment of the community, and I'll talk particularly about the women. So the women are involved a lot because there has to be representation right from decision making, from implementation of field activities when it comes to the nurseries, when it comes to carrying out the activities for the project, in the governance where we have the committees leading the projects. We have to ensure that we meet the 2/3 gender rule. And we have also employed, like the project staff from the video, we are told only 3, but now we have 5 for Mikoko Pamoja and 5 for Vanga Blue Forest. So the projects are growing and getting to employ more people with that. And luckily, we've also had interests that go beyond even the system. And it's assisting women. Like last year, we had in the Vanga Blue Forest project a period poverty eradication, where the women in one of the villages got to get reusable sanitary towels and soap, which are not things that they get commonly. So they don't take it for granted. It was such a boost for them. And with that, I don't want to talk much about Mikoko Pamoja because we've watched, and there are many more videos online that we could watch. Mine is to extend an invitation to anybody who feels interested and would like to come to the ground and see what is happening, hear the stories from the community members. We also have, we are open to having students and volunteers in the projects. And we do this also through the Research Institute, Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, where they're able to get internships and do their research projects through the institute and through the projects. So they contribute to the project, and also they develop their research skills and build on the science. So exchange visits are also welcome for anyone, maybe not students, but anyone interested to come live in this very nice village, play around with in the mangrove forest, go fishing, you're most welcome. We have gotten also a lot of interest around the region, the West Indian Ocean region, that's from Somalia all the way to South Africa. People are interested because they can see the benefits that such projects are bringing to the community. There has been a lot of interest to develop similar projects around, but we acknowledge that startup costs are very high. Like for instance, this took, like Mikoko Pamoja cost in the range of 300,000 pounds to just develop their project and start it over. So that has been a challenge, but we welcome in-kind contributions where scientists coming, where it's always external grants that has enabled us to get to where we are. And also we have explored other things to help the community beyond the mangroves, because you know they depend on the mangroves for energy and the other functions that we've had from the video. So now we are also coming in with fuel efficient stoves to help with the women. There's a lot of respiratory diseases around because they use the open, we call it the traditional stove, where they use the 3 stones with the fuel wood, and there's a lot of smoke. So it's been affecting the families, mostly women and children, because they're mostly indoors when the cooking is going on. So we are introducing the fuel efficient jikos, which we have determined scientifically is reducing the smoke levels and in turn benefiting the health of these communities. I welcome you to get in touch with us for questions. We have so much, I can talk here for the whole day if I'm to give you the positive accounts of the project. Yeah, mine is to welcome you, and for any question, please feel free to ask.
Can I just row us back a little bit in explaining about mangroves? Because you and I, we spoke when I did the Mangrove Day global Zoom following the fellowship, the RSA's one on Eco Day. Mangroves are sea trees. They sequester up to 4 times more carbon than even the Amazonian trees. If they're cut down, not just you lose a source of energy, well, the sequestering of the carbon, it releases when you cut it. Also in the roots, there are crabs, there are prawns. It's a whole ecosystem. But just part of this is that your women are paid something like £30,000 or dollars a year to plant 4,000. These are the statistics roundabout, to plant 4,000 mangrove trees. Now, this is what we call ESG, Environmental Sustainability Governance. It's what this whole conference is about. And I just want to make a point about, just because we've spoken before, in Sri Lanka, I went back as UK champion for education and skills. I went back after the tsunami and it affected the Pacific region. Now there, I visited a village which had mangroves planted to protect the land. One person was killed, was drowned. In the next village where I could walk to, 3,000 were drowned because of our great appetite for eating prawns, big shrimp. We were making those Sri Lankan fisher folk give up the things they had done for many, many years in order to, well, to satiate what we want in the world. So now Sri Lanka planting the mangroves, this is very much a community project. And this is why we want people around the world to do it. The other thing, of course, is some of the health projects about it. And we spoke about, you'll hear from Audley English, flat pack houses that rely on getting solar power in. You know, you've just mentioned, and this is what sparked me off, that bending over a wood fire then is destroying your lungs, and it's destroying the atmosphere and climate change. If we can get these flat packs over to you from here, we share the technology and we share a cleaner future. So I know that we've been looking at this, Lillian, have a look and see where he's welcome, where we're welcome, where Z Generation we can do it, you know. We love the world, we love our children. So if we can move on, I'm sorry to cut it short because we've got such amazing speakers. Oh, I hate to say that because the next speaker is me. But thank you, Lillian. We'll have time at the end. Hang on, and then perhaps we can speak to some of your ladies as well that are on. Yeah, thank you so much. So Lillian from Kenya, well done. Right, thank you so much. Now, this is something that I've squeezed on because the next speaker after this very short little interview, if you like, whoops, you can't see me. This is odd. There. This is Sam King. No relationship to Peter King, who's coming to speak next. But Z Generation is all about little old people like me, or some not so old, Audley won't like that, joining together to hand on the baton of everything we've been doing in our lives to the next generation. So I make no apology in bringing my grandson, Sam King, who is my next generation, studying in Reading University, studying economics and finance. So Sam, what do you want to tell us about what your vision is? You've seen crazy old Nanny doing this for the last, well, since you've been born, but what do you see that you can get out of this?
Hi, so I'm Sam, and obviously Rani is my grandmother. So I see a really bright future with it all. Obviously studying economics and finance at Reading, a large part of the first semester has been based on within the finance sector, has been based on sort of it's sustainable finance, and there really are emphasis on that right now. And I just think with sustainable finance right now, it's such a large thing going on to sort of the reallocation of capital, just investors, lenders, they're increasingly sort of exiting high climate risk equity bonds and new loans, and insurers will stop renewing covers for companies who are not sort of going onto this transition. And with Rani, with Nan, I think I support you with the Z Generation. I think it is such a big thing because us young people, there is a lot of stuff that we can do to help out with this. And I've been to Sri Lanka, and I think mangroves are such a large part of the way forward as well, as currently we don't really have a carbon capture technology which is such like mangroves, and I think mangroves can be the way forward for now. So that's all from me, but I think due to sort of the global mindset and the cultural fluency, this can give sort of the company like Z Generation sort of diverse talent, and I think can see greater returns really.
Thank you, Sam. That's not bad. Yeah, give you a pat on the head and an extra £5 in your pocket money for that one. What we're really actually saying about this as well is that I'm delighted. I mentioned it when I introduced John Barron. John is in charge of the APPG for British councils, and the government has replaced the Erasmus European Study Scheme with the Turing project, the scheme. Turing was the man who broke the Enigma code in World War II, which meant that we actually defeated the Nazis. So in his name is one of the best scientists and brains in the country or in our history. The Turing project has £150 million to send our students, whether they're children right up to university level, to go and look at projects, to go into other parts of the world, take technology, but bring it back as well to this country. Because everything I always say to people is, unless you know where you've come from, how do you know where you're going? Learn the lessons from the past. Some of them have not been very good in colonial history, but there's a bright future. So I'm really excited. I want to open the doors to get groups to go and visit countries where they desperately need to have help. So Sam, thank you so much. Thank you, darling.
No worries.
Bye. Speak to you soon. Any questions on that one? I don't know whether the two professors want to say anything. We've got Elizabeth Robinson from Reading University.
John has got his hand up. I think he wants to say something.
Oh.
Sam, can you mute yourself for me, please?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Just to pick up on that, I think what we are blessed with, and my younger daughter is very much involved likewise in various green initiatives, and I should say she's encouraged me to convert to becoming what I call a pesky vegan. In other words, vegan plus fish, as long as it's sustainably sourced. So there you go. But it is that we are blessed, I think, globally with a younger generation who really do want to get out there and try and make a difference when it comes to the green agenda. And the government has various green initiatives. I didn't want to list them all out because this is not a sort of political seminar. Because the Turing endeavor.
Is it a picture? Can everybody mute themselves, please?
The Turing endeavor idea is a very good one, and there's been money put behind it because, you know, we obviously want good relations with the whole world, not just Europe, and that's in encouraging the youth, if you like, to get out there and explore the world. And that is a good example. But if we're going to reach our target of carbon neutrality as quickly as we are, then we need these ideas. We need the spread of best practice from these shores and to these shores in order to progress the green agenda. So all I can say to Sam is well done, but also well done to Lillian with regards to the mangoes. I learned a lot from that, by the way. And it's something that perhaps, Rani, we should raise with government if mangoes are so much more efficient at capturing carbon.
Fortunately, we can't grow mangroves here, John, but maybe our apple trees.
But we can encourage investment overseas.
Yes, exactly. I think I was reading some statistics about £38 million to the Climate Compatible Growth Programme, and also £3 billion of our own in the One Planet Summit. That's right. Where we're going to be using this huge amount of money to climate change solutions, quote unquote, that protect and restore nature and biodiversity over 5 years. Huge things coming out. The budget hopefully will do it, but I'm hoping globally our audience are very heartened by the fact that the UK is leading. We are a sovereign nation. We will be working out there and we will be supporting countries because that's what we're about.
Yes, projects around the world. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions from anybody before we move on?
I was just going to briefly say something.
Yes, whoever you are.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think it was really fantastic to hear what Lillian and Sam had to say. And I think increasingly we're recognizing these links between climate change and health. And so, you know, when we look at protecting mangroves, we're looking at, you know, global protection because of climate change mitigation. But we're also looking at the direct impact on people's health. So if you protect your mangroves, you're improving your food security. And as Lillian pointed out, we also really need to think about the particulate pollution that causes ill health to so many women because of the way they cook. So I think these initiatives are immediately important for the local communities themselves, but also, you know, that global benefit. So of course, you know, I'm at Reading University, so I'm absolutely delighted to see the next generation of people such as Sam, you know, who really enthusiastic about working on mangroves. And I think what is exciting is that, you know, as Sam pointed out, whether you're excited by finance, by health, by climate change, you know, all these different disciplines and interests come together, and mangroves really are, you know, we call it blue carbon. They really are so important for climate change mitigation and for sucking up that atmospheric carbon dioxide. So I just like to say thank you. Sante sana.
Thank you very much. That was Professor Elizabeth Robinson from Sam's University. Right, so should we move on to our next speaker, because he is bringing in the other dimension. His name is Peter King, no relationship. It's really embarrassing having to say that we have nothing except for the fact that we work together in Basildon on community projects. But Peter has a long career, 52 years career, worked right across Africa in the third largest at the time insurance company in the world, ran his own company, and now is a pretty, I think a pretty good all-round egg. So Peter, over to you. What you're doing, you're muted, so if you start talking, I'll shut myself up. Peter King.
Okay, all right, everybody can hear me. Welcome to everybody. I don't know where Rani is. I didn't realise a garden was a botanical sort of wonderment. I don't know where. Have you moved? It was lovely to hear from my sisters there in Kenya. I call them sisters because I was fortunate to spend over 52 years working in and travelling Africa in particular, which is very much the love of my life. It's a fantastic continent full of extremely clever, very gifted people who, to be honest, just need a chance. I think it's fair to say that because of the previous, dare I say it, colonial connections between this country and Africa, we still have this lovely bond between the two countries. And I really do hope that, dare I say it, to get involved in Brexit a bit, that the fact that we are now no longer part of that, what I call restrictive bloc of countries, that we can go back and start to do some really meaningful things with Africa, as well as a lot of these emerging continents. If we look at emerging continents around the world and the problems, particularly with regards to eco-friendly elements, as we all know, the majority of emerging countries are immediately above, on, and immediately below the equator. And it has always been a bit of a mystery to me that given that one of their greatest natural resources is there in abundance every single day of the week, which of course is sun and warmth and heat, that in fact these elements have not been taken advantage of. I think particularly in Africa now and in parts of India and the Far East, thankfully the eco programs are now starting to embrace that. And in fact, we should be encouraging you know, those and investment as well. We have to realise that obviously it's not for us to say that the problems in Africa, the problems in the Far East with regards to eco elements are their own concern, because we all know that if you damage the planet in one part of the world, then it affects us all. I mean, just look at the change in the climate. I mean, I can claim, I suppose, some advantage in the fact that I am now 71 years old, and I can remember growing up as a child where the seasons were quite specific. we had freezing cold winters, and we had glorious hot summers. Well, that is a way that it appeared to me at the particular time. There wasn't an awful lot in between. You had your rain in April because of April showers, and the leaves fell off the trees in sort of Octoberish time. Otherwise, we had terrible snow and terrible cold, and then gloriously hot summers. And look at us now. I mean, we're an absolute mess. But the world, from an ecological point of view, is destroying ourselves. Now, the advantages are people like Sam, my two young children that we have. Some of the children that have gone through, my wife and I's hands, as well as my own natural children. In fact, now, because they are so aware. It was lovely there to hear John Barron's daughter convincing him to become a vegan or vegan pescarian, whatever those things are. But the future with regards to help on the eco front is going to be largely in the young people pestering us older, grey, white-haired people to change our ways and to bring on board. And again, with regards to government, I think government now is beginning to realise that to invest in eco situations is not a question of money wasted. It's an investment. It's a question of speculation to accumulate. In the sense, if you put, and it was interesting, the young Kenyan lady there saying that it's an enormous amount of money, $300,000 to. My goodness, my friend, Mr. Harry Kane, the famous Tottenham in England centre forward, that's his weekly wage. It's half of what Spurs paid Gareth Bale as part of his deal from Real Madrid. I mean, we have to get this into perspective. £300,000 into a scheme like that, to me, is piffle. It's just money, a small little pot. And it's great to see that this wonderful country of ours, whether it's Britain or United Kingdom, depending on whether my Scots friends decide eventually to walk away or do whatever they want to do. Great Britain, UK, has got a wonderful, wonderful record of working with countries, some former colonial countries, in these projects and enabling them to take that leap forward to try and help. We've got a problem in West Africa of deforestation. It's not because of some bug or something in the soil or some fly that comes along and destroys the trees. It's because the only source to cook, you don't need heat obviously, but the main source to cook is charcoal. So we have to find ways of trying to wean these countries and the people of these countries off chopping trees down so that they can cook their food. We had a case many years ago in Mozambique, and again, it's to say the message is to look at simple ways of solving problems. We financed, through the company I was working there, the importation of something like 200 tractors to help the agricultural side there. We went to a former Russian-controlled country in Europe. I won't name them, but their tractors were given to us very cheaply. They went down there. Within a month, they all broke. They all broke down. They were crappy. The Mozambicans said to us, well, why do we need these complicated forms of equipment to resolve a problem? What we need is spades, forks, hoes, and we can bring in the people to till the fields and grow the crops to sustain. These are simple solutions. We need to look at simple solutions to solve problems, and to put the small amounts of money in there. So that's my sort of overall message. I'm not sort of quite to the point of being an eco warrior. I was certainly five to 7 years ago very concerned about how my African brothers and sisters were going to survive the next generation. Thankfully, we've had some interventions. We've had the return of good, stable governance to large parts of Africa, which is an absolute godsend. But the important thing there, like around the world, is we have these lovely, bright, clever people who are beginning to realize that we cannot destroy the environment in which we live. We know that places like the Maldives will disappear in 30 years. If you go to a place like Gambia, where I used to do a lot of business, they've had something like 200 yards of their entire coastline eroded, mainly because on one side, because of, again, the destruction of the mangrove swamps, which are the inside of the peninsula. Outside, obviously, the erosion of the coastline due to changing climate. And it's devastated. It's devastated their main industry, which they depend upon, which is tourism. If you haven't got a beach, people won't go there for a holiday. They've got no beaches. The beaches have largely been destroyed. But these are simple situations. We've got to look at simple solutions for difficult problems. But thankfully, as I say, we have the young people and people like us here, older people, well, I mean, Ran is mature. I wouldn't call her old. I'm the old person that can actually listen and understand, match the maturity with the younger generation who are becoming sort of nicely aggressive to resolve these issues, and we must give them their full support, and governments must get behind. The last thing I would say is that from governmental points of view, and I'm sorry, I don't know whether John's there, we are very lucky here in Wickford and Basil and Wickford in that we've had a succession of excellent members of Parliament who are very, very aware. Before John, there was Angela Smith. I know she's a different political divide to me, but again, she was very aware, as indeed John is. It's nice to hear the honest comments there of John. I admire John a lot. And, you know, these are people who, again, within government, are encouraging people, again, to take these, you know, these difficult problems. They are difficult issues. Embrace the strength and energy of the young people and move to a resolution. And when we're investing in these emerging economies, we need to put the money and the power in the hands of the people, not in the governments. So you feed the money from the bottom to go upwards rather than the top to go downwards, because there are still one or two, shall we say, less than acceptable governments around the world. So anyway, that's my lot. Well done, our friends there from Kenya. It's a lovely, lovely place. I love Kenya a great deal. Lovely, lovely people as well. So well done. I love that mangrove thing. Really, really, very interesting. I'm going to have a good look at that, Lillian.
Thank you, Peter, and for your experiences. Anybody got any comments, particularly about, we've heard a lot about the pollution through fossil fuels, cutting down, burning trees. We know what this does to us. I just interject one thing before I ask the questions, is that the Foreign Secretary has announced that UK will pledge £38 million to the Climate Compatible Growth Programme, and this will support developing countries to accelerate their transition to green energy while growing their economies. So £38 million in a little pot there. Anybody want to spend it? Anybody in the audience know how to spend it?
Well, I think Lily knows what she'd do with a little bit of that.
She could have it.
You know, I mean, again, you know, the message is quite simple in the places, and I mean, you know, I mean, I can. You give me 24 hours, I'll talk for 24 hours about my love for the continent and the people of Africa. It's a wonderful continent now, but I mean the strength of these continents and countries is much the same of India. They're a little bit more techie. They're taking over the world, as we all know, with regards to their ability to get involved in IT in a seriously big way. That's going to be a phenomenal economy, you know, over the next 15, 20 years. You talk about China, but you watch for India, and following behind that are these wonderful, wonderful kids that we have in Africa. You've got to have lived there and worked with these people, as I've been very fortunate to do. The kids, the youngsters from sort of 15 upwards. We've really got to help them with their education. There's got to be a bigger investment in the education system. You've still got situations where you've got little buildings in the middle of nowhere run by wonderful teachers, a lot of them retired teachers who've come back in, limited resources, no problems with books, problems with energy. As soon as the sun goes down, which in most of these countries is 6:30, those in and around the equator, you can't read. The kids can't read at home unless they've got a kerosene lamp or something like that.
I know this is a problem. This is a huge problem.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Forgive me for cutting you, because you've given us a lot of food for thought. I wanted you to speak to us because of your experience. You've been to 40 African countries. You've been across to Asia. You've been in the USA. I'm just going to skew this conference slightly, in that I'm bringing in Professor from Leicester University, and this is something that has been a theme through some of our conferences. So, Clive, are you there? Will you come on, please? And I'm not going to do very much more than a quick introduction about some of the issues of today for all of us. Obviously, it's a pandemic, which is horrendous, and recovering from that. Obviously, it's about the climate change and the fact that the variances of weather. A huge part of the White Cliffs of Dover just collapsed because of erosion. We're seeing huge variance in temperatures, 50 plus and minus 50 around the world. But the elephant in the room, as I always say, is also about the uneven playing field that some of us are still finding ourselves in. And it's about not, as I've said again, you must know where you came from to know where you're going forward. And there are issues around Black History Month, around George Floyd. Who could ever remember that picture of him crying out for his mother with that knee on his neck? Now, Clive, over to you. Introduce yourself and tell us all about what you're doing to help change this country and the world for better.
Well, is my slide okay? Right. So this is my presentation for National Apprenticeship Week. So could I have the next slide, please? Right. So that's me, and anyone who saw the initial flyer for this week would have already seen my mugshot and also a resume of my career to date. So I needn't spend too much time on that. Let's just briefly run through. Why am I here? Well, I was born in Jamaica, but I am a Windrush lad. I came to the UK in 1960. I've spent 40 of the subsequent years in Birmingham. I was very much shaped in the 1960s with all that entailed. No blacks, dogs, Irish, etc. Themes which have already been touched on this week by, for example, the Admirable QC Naz Hussein. I did most of my primary schooling in Birmingham. I went to George Dixon Grammar School. I was very influenced by the things that occurred around me and which were reported from abroad in the 1960s. In particular, like Naz Hussein, I was very impressed by Muhammad Ali. In particular, one of the things that resonate with me was when Ali was asked whether he liked training, and Ali said, like hell I did not, or words to that effect. But I thought to myself, Ali said, suffer now and live the rest of your life like a champion. And that is, I think, something which hopefully will resonate to the youngsters of today. Fast forward to the 1970s, I went to Birmingham University, and I encountered other influences, including a professor of mathematical economics who happened to have been an old boy of George Dixon Grammar School, which was the grammar school that I also went to. 1970s, early 1970s at university also influenced my first excursions into community activity with Saturday schools and summer projects in the Handsworth area of Birmingham. So let's have the next slide, please. Could I have the next slide, please? So why am I an economist? In a nutshell, from my own standpoint, I had the skills which were required at that point in time, the ability to communicate, and also I was a good mathematician. And there was also the motivation from the standpoint that economics allows me to understand historical trends, to analyze current developments, and also contribute in the way forward. So if I could have the next slide, please. So what do I do now? I've been an academic all my working life, and indeed I have, to be fair, not really left academia from the first day that I set foot in Birmingham University in October 1972. But in terms of my current activities, I, as well as doing teaching and research, I am very engaged in so-called EDI, equality, diversity, and inclusion activities. And among the things which I seek to promote are a more diverse perspective and representation within economics. And I go regularly over the past few years to, for example, St. Dominic's Sixth Form College in Harrow to give taster talks, economics and studying economics. And one of the things I always push is the fact that we have too few blacks of all genders, and we have even more so too few women. So I always like to show people pictures of what economists can look like. And here are some on this slide. Now, I don't have time to go into detail about them, but for example, we have Miata Van Boule with a PhD from LSE, who happens to be the head of the New Economics Foundation. We have Esther Duflo, a Nobel Prize winner in economics. We have Dame Sharon White, who is a path breaker in all sorts of ways and is now the chair of the John Lewis Partnership. We have Dame Rachel Griffiths, who's been head of the Royal Economic Society and head of the European Economic Association. So there is scope for women to make their mark, and we want to have more of them bring their new perspectives to bear onto the issues that we need address in the society. Next slide, please. Now, I do other things in the EDI space. One thing that I co-founded quite recently at the University of Leicester is a Black Excellence Initiative, which is a coalition between staff and students to address the issue of currently under-attainment and underrepresentation by Blacks in economics. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. If you click on this slide, you will see one of the activities that we engaged in not so long ago. Can the slide be clicked on and brought up? Hopefully it should appear quite quickly. Okay, so this is one of our activities that I tweeted on, but which we had at the end of December. And it was really well attended within and without the university. It was a virtual event, and we brought together Dr. Vindelin Smith-Hillman, who happened to have been one of my former students at Warwick, actually, but who is now the chief economist at the Law Commission for England and Wales, and Mark Esho, who's an award-winning, a multi-award-winning tech entrepreneur, who's actually, he doesn't mind me saying, someone who was disabled by polio at age 5, but nonetheless has gone on to great things. And they had a conversation about the challenges that are faced by so-called minorities, but in fact, people who belong to the global majority in getting progress and putting their ideas across in the environment in which we are now operating. But nonetheless, they are doing it. And I think this was a great encouragement to a lot of our youngsters in the audience. Next slide, please. I think you need to click out of that slide, and then you will get back to my slides. So I think if you just click out of this page, just go to the top right-hand corner and click out of this page, you will get back to my slideshow.
No. Is there very much more on that slide, or do you want to talk out because we'd like to have some questions before the next speaker?
There were two more slides that I want.
Okay.
Okay, maybe if you click back onto that PPTX, you. I think that what you should have done, but because we're now stuck, is actually clicked on the X at the top of the current screen. and then go back into my slideshow, if you don't mind, and just go 4 or 5 slides. Okay, right, we're up to date. So other things that I do is to work with like-minded groups outside the university, and maybe rather than clicking into either these 2 links now, given the experience that we just had, if we just go on and get to the next slide, please. Okay. One of the groups that I work a lot with is the Reed Society. And as this is National Apprenticeship Week, I think it's very important that I stress that a lot of my focus and their focus, and hence why we collaborate, is that we want to do things for the employability of Black youngsters in particular. And one of the activities which have enabled us to do that is introducing what we called the Leicester Employability Day, which is a collaboration between the University of Leicester and a branch of the Reed Society, which is the foundation for Reed Society in Leicester. In 2019, we were very, very fortunate to have the very first Leicester Employability Day. If you bring up the next bit of animation, the Leicester Employability Day for 2020 was on its way in train, and then COVID came along. So we had to postpone it. Now, one of the things which I slid over in the preceding slide, because I would have had to go to the links, is what we are doing for 2021. And the links actually take people to a 4-day virtual conference, virtual careers conference, which will cater for up to 35,000 visitors, where we will have 70 professional role models, 30 large employers as exhibitors, a day devoted to workshops stressing employability issues, and then a day of expert panels with the great and the good, such as, for example, the Reed Society patron, Professor Sir Jeff Palmer, among others. And if we go to the last slide, I will round up. And basically, this is what it is all about. This is a scene which I'm happy to say I shot from the Leicester University stand at the 2019 Reach Careers Conference, which was held then in person in London, in Bloomsbury. And we had nearly 2,000 youngsters visiting. And this, I think, summarizes, as I say, what it is all about. It is all about the youngsters in the future, getting them into productive activities which exploit their talents, which encourage them to realize their talents and then to go on to exploit them. And I think that gels very much with the theme of this week. And that is all that I would like to say. Thank you.
So, thank you so much, That was a packed life you've had so far, with plenty more in the tank, I think, there, Clive. I'm sure that we're going to be working closely together, especially as I'm going to wish off and, well, try and get Audley in, because Audley is UK's first West Indian architect and is a Windrush child. And we have a Windrush grandchild then, if Joseph is still there, in Barbados. We're going to do a lot of work over the Caribbean. I am a Windrush Housing Association and Alliance board member now. I have an ambassadorial role, which is telling everybody about it, and about what we can do, reaching out and going back to pay mum and dad back. So Audley, are you there? Would you like to bring Joseph in and have, unfortunately, we haven't got the full time, but would you like to do a presentation or speak about what you're doing, especially as a Windrush?
My slide up, thank you. And I don't know how we'll do a double act with Joseph, because I only told him about the event yesterday.
Bring him in to talk.
Yeah.
Bring him in to talk with
So
you.
he can talk as well then. My slide.
Yatunde, could we please get Audley's slide up?
Yeah, while the slide has been prepared, I was just thinking that my family is actually STEM family, which is quite, because it only occurred to me yesterday. It only occurred to me yesterday because my daughter, she's a scientist. She worked for GlaxoSmithKline before. My younger son is an engineer and he's developing engines using battery technology. And me, the T in the STEM comes from me, from architecture, and the maths comes from Joseph for economics. So just by coincidence, we're all STEM family. There's a slide up. All right.
Amazing, Yatunde. Thank you so much.
Thank
Working like
you.
a slave here.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. So can you go to the next slide, please? The next slide, yeah. How do we bring the great back into Great Britain? And I've had meetings with the Treasury, and as Rani said previously, there's opportunities for innovation in overseas territory. And just thinking what John Barron was thinking about the budget, because I was thinking also, my sister, she worked for the Treasury for 20 years, typing up the budget, which just happens to be coincidental as well. So there is opportunities for innovation overseas. Next slide, please. Didn't you get the PowerPoint? This seems to be a PDF thing, but it doesn't matter because there's only a few slides then. What Lillian did point out was the importance of the mangrove. And after doing my research from the last mangrove presentation, we realized that Jamaica has 7,000 hectares of mangrove, which from Lillian's calculation, that gives us 10.5 million tons of sequestral carbon. So yes, the mangrove is important around the world. Next slide. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. Garden villages. We know we have to build millions of homes around the world, and there is no standard procedure for doing that. So what we've developed is a manufacturing technique that can be built, manufactured in different countries around the world, giving local employment and being sustainable as well. Next slide. So what what we found is that you can On your own house, you can grow your own vegetables on the roof, or you can use solar power on the roof to create your own electricity. Because as Peter pointed out, that education, children are using kerosene oil for lighting so that they can read at night time. And kerosene, a lot of deaths have been caused by kerosene fires in developing countries. Next slide, please. Next. So we're looking at standard house types that can be added on later on. And with our different house types, you can start off with a small 1-bedroom house, and as the family grows, you can add to it later on. And it's all about sustainability. We build sustainable, we use green materials, and it's all about the circular economy. Everything that we use within our building can be reused over and over again. So the next thing is about finance. How do you finance these? And my son, Joseph, he took himself off to Barbados and about the cryptocurrency and Bitcoins. So maybe Joe can tell us about how he sees the future in economics.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a cryptocurrency trader. So I thought I'd talk about just for a few minutes about the cryptocurrencies and how it affects kind of the financial system. So cryptocurrency is a digital asset which works as a medium of exchange. There are thousands of different cryptocurrencies for different use cases out there. Bitcoin is the most popular one that is currently available. One of the reasons why it's so popular is because Bitcoin is not controlled by a central bank or a government, and it's also decentralized. It's been hard-coded into Bitcoin that only 21 million Bitcoin can ever be produced. It is estimated that 3 to 4 million Bitcoin has been lost. So this means that Bitcoin is even scarcer than it looks from the outside. Currently, around 60% of all the money in the crypto market is in Bitcoin. The UK and many other countries around the world have been printing money to help for the damages of the pandemic with stimulus checks and furlough schemes. The Federal Reserve of the United States of America has printed trillions and trillions of dollars within the last year, which equates for 20% of the total supply of the US dollars. As the British pound, like most other currencies around the world, are backed by the US dollar, this will have an effect on the pound. Printing this much money to pay for the damages of coronavirus will cause high inflation in the future, meaning that each pound becomes less valuable. By individuals and businesses investing into cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, this may help them protect their wealth from the upcoming high inflation to the UK. Blockchain and cryptocurrencies are shocking the traditional banking system in the UK. To open a bank account, you need a home address. Not everybody in the UK has a home address, so they cannot open a bank account. To buy a Bitcoin, all you need is the internet. So this could be used as a store of money for the homeless. A new booming sector in the crypto sphere is DeFi, otherwise known as decentralized finance. Individuals can deposit their crypto as collateral and borrow against it. Because decentralized finance is decentralized, this means anyone can borrow it. Doesn't matter for your credit score, your age, ethnicity, gender, or background. DeFi can be also used in other financial services such as insurance. In order to mine a Bitcoin, computers are connected to the blockchain to solve complex mathematical equations. As a reward of mining, their miners will receive Bitcoin for the solutions for these equations. This is known as proof of work. However, these computers are normally running all the time, and some places have entire warehouses full of computers solving these equations. This means that's a lot of energy being used to mine Bitcoin. In 2019, a Cambridge University study showed that miners across the globe are using more energy than the whole of Switzerland per year. Bitcoin was the first generation of cryptocurrency. The second generation is Ethereum, and the third is Cardano, otherwise known as ADA. Using proof of stake, Cardano is using a proof of stake system. So instead of having miners, individuals stake their ADA, this is like a security deposit. Then the stakes are rewarded with transaction fees that are spent on the blockchain. This significantly reduces the amount of energy used powered by the blockchain, therefore lower carbon emissions. Ethereum is a centralized blockchain that has realized the consequences of proof of work and now is in the process of changing to a proof of stake. As Bitcoin is decentralized, there is no one entity controlling it, so it cannot be changed. In my opinion, cryptocurrencies are going to be the revolution of finance, and it also gives the bankless banks, and it protects individuals' wealth from negative government intervention or quantitative easing that is done within the economy.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for coming in from Barbados. Yetunde has to leave. She is the one who keeps the wheels turning on this bus for this old girl anyway. So just in very, very quick wrap up, I'm so sorry Yetunde couldn't come and speak. She runs a charity, a community interest company rather, in Basildon. We work very closely together. She inspires young people. But I hope that everybody that's come on has got a general feel that money does make the world go round, but what we need it to do is to make a better and a greener world turn around. So investors out there, ESG, you've seen the type of communities that need help. You know what you can do with your money. You can either take it with you, put it in your pockets when you're going to be cremated and take it with you, or else leave it behind to build a better world and give it to our children to do it. So, Yetunde, are you going to come on and just say goodbye? Because I know you have to go to your next meeting, but we want to see your face. Or I think that you had trouble, did you? Can you come on?
I have trouble. You're not going to see my face anyway, so.
Well, all I can say is you've worked yourself solid. These last 4 days have been full on every single day. Please go to Z Generation YouTube channel. Have a quick look at the 4 different sessions we did: law, policing, NHS, construction, engineering, and then today finance. But also have a look at what we did on the flotilla, which in Black History Month we did and was in the Voice newspaper. Also click on and listen to all of the little videos before. There are Windrush people speaking, from 104-year-old Nellie Brown, right down to all sorts of different people, obviously Audley and his family as well. But I hope you enjoyed it. We've taken a lot away. We've got the invitation from John Barron to put in front of government what has come out of this. So if anybody wants to give me any comments at all, please do. It can show, doesn't it, that even little people can make a very big noise if we all stick together. So thank you from all parts of the country. Thank you to our speakers particularly, and thank you to the audience. And goodbye.
Right.